Welcome to the MLB Network Podcast. I'm Adnan Virk alongside MLB Network analyst Carlos Peña, good buddy of mine. We're talking postseason memories today. And as well as I know Carlos and all the stories we spent together, I had no idea you had this, I wouldn't quite say affliction, but habit, which is that while we're sitting here, you have to always be sitting in that chair because the fact you want to feel like you're still in the left-handed batter's box.
That's absolutely true. I mean, I don't know what it is, but if I go on that side, I feel like I'm on a totally different planet, totally out of sorts. And it's because that's the right-hander's batter's box.
Right.
And then here, you know what? I was just going to just pick up the bat. You know, look at the picture. I'm ready to go.
I couldn't imagine you driving in England. They drive the other side of the road. Like, I couldn't do it. Driving the right, low, can't do it.
Done. Absolutely done.
For yourself, you had a storied career. Was there more pressure playing at home or on the road?
I mean, I would say at home, just because you feel responsible for your home fans. You want to make sure that you play hard for them and everything. But, you know, there are some places that, for me personally, were tough. You know, and I got it. And you wouldn't think that Boston would be one of those because I went to school at Northeastern University in Boston.
Yep.
And family was there. But I think because of that, then I wanted to perform. You know, I really put a lot of pressure on myself. And I don't know. Also, you know, former teammates, you know, classmates used to go.
Yeah.
Remember my roommate one time, Adnan, I'm going to go into a story here.
I like this, yeah.
I had 4 strikeouts in one game.
Okay.
And I had not seen my roommate maybe, 20 years. We totally have parted ways, drifted apart. And I'm going up from the 5th at bat at Fenway Park. And I hear, Carlos. When I turn around, it's my college roommate.
Wow.
And this is the first time I see him in like 20 years. And he looks at me, he goes,
"Don't strike out a 5th time."
Swing at the first pitch, you know. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, is this a nightmare? Like, is this a dream? Or is this guy real?
Yeah.
You know, I actually got a hit, so thank the Lord.
Thank God,
it was the right advice anyway.
That is good.
I didn't see him afterwards. He left.
No, there's no way. That's the worst part.
He left.
He was there to give you advice, and he just
And then
took
he
off.
left. He disappeared.
Not a great roommate. Maybe he was a good roommate, but not a good friend post roommate. All right, so 1 for 5 that day. The difference in the regular season and the playoffs, it's so magnified right now, right? Do you think that's genuine? Is there a genuine difference, or is that just an overrated thing that people say who don't actually know the game the way you've played it?
No, Adnan, it's different. I mean, I'm telling you, you play the regular season, it almost feels like you can play percentages.
Yeah.
You know, you have a good approach at the plate, you play the long game, you're going to get 500 at-bats, and you know that at the end of the year, if you stick to your approach, you play percentages, if you have the skill, you know, the home runs will be there.
Right.
The RBIs will be there. The batting average is going to be what's going to be. In the postseason, it's not like that. I mean, you feel the weight of every single pitch thrown. You know, and I love that. Like, that was so much fun. It was exhausting because, you know, after every single game, you are so spent mentally, emotionally, because every pitch that was thrown, you're like, this pitch, you know, and then you take a deep breath, and then it was this pitch. And you do that, you know, 300 times a game, and you are absolutely done at the end of the day. It's just because everything is so, it weighs so, it's so heavy. It determines your future, that precise moment. And who wins? Whoever wins as many moments as possible, really.
And knowing you as I do, you're a cerebral guy. Like, you're well-read. I could see you're very thoughtful, like knowledgeable. So I'm sure, as you said, you're just ingesting. No, it's true. You're just ingesting all this reams of information. So you really would take it to heart if things didn't produce the desired result.
Yeah, that was probably a downfall in my career. You're just taking things a little bit too seriously.
Yeah.
And I would have to remind myself, I mean, you still have to go out there and just have fun, enjoy it, and stop thinking so much, you know. And that's usually what coaches would say, stop thinking so much.
Yeah.
Just see the ball and hit it, you know.
Well, speaking of 08 ALCS, you saw the ball and hit it. You homered in 3 straight games at Fenway Park. It's interesting. You just said playing at Fenway you found very tough, even though you went to Northeastern, just the pressure that was there. But that 08 ALCS, take me through that homering 3 straight games.
Yeah, I did well at Fenway. You know, I actually performed well there.
Yeah.
You know, even throughout the feeling of pressure, right, and trying to outplay everybody else. It was just, number one, a great place to play. Like, that place, I could tell you right now, I could close my eyes, and the smells of Fenway, you know, the grill, you know, out there, the pine tar that they used, like, I could tell you I was in Fenway Park. The sounds, it's unbelievable. It's kind of freaky. Maybe because ever since I was in high school and in college, I used to sneak into Fenway.
Yeah.
So Fenway is always very special to me.
Yeah.
And to go up there, I felt the pressure, but I performed.
Yeah.
That series, I went crazy at it. And this was our first postseason.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely locked in.
08 ALCS, was there, you mentioned earlier about having your roommate there. Was there family there watching you play at Fenway when you're having those big games, or were you just isolated?
No, all of them.
Well, that's awesome.
All of them and extra, extra.
Yeah.
It was fun going into Fenway, into Boston because of that, because family was still there, friends were still there.
Yeah.
At that time, you could just leave tickets. So it was like 40 people in the stands. There's a lot more restrictions now. You can't just leave 40 tickets. But back in those days, I did. And it was awesome to have the family and all my friends there, except my roommate.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't understand why.
I still don't know why I wouldn't go back and just at least tell you he was at the game. Very easy. Just wait outside the clubhouse.
Just wait for me, man.
Yeah. 5-minute conversation. He left. I'm always impressed by guys like you that can hit, especially as the weather gets cold. And so I think about Game 5, 08 World Series, temperatures in the 40s, wind gusting up to 70. I mean, I don't want to be there as a fan. I don't want to be there as a member of the media. How could you perform in weather like that?
It was absolutely miserable, okay? It was unbelievable. I didn't even, how in the world are we even playing, right?
Yeah.
And things were not going well for us at that moment, and we got some momentum. And they stopped the game. People ask me, what happened?
Yeah.
All the Philly fans all over say, yeah, we beat you. It's like, no, you know who the MVP of your team was? The rain.
Yeah.
If it wouldn't have, the rain wouldn't have came and we would have been able to finish that game.
Yeah.
I think we have momentum. And if we win, then we get back to Tampa.
Yeah.
And maybe things would have been different. So, should have, would have, could have, whatever. But I had to tell that story. You just have to bear down. I mean, I got a pretty big hit there tying the game. You could see BJ Upton running the bases, and it looked like he was skating. Like every single time he hit the ground, there was a splash of water.
Yeah.
He was almost tiptoeing to score. So, very memorable. Unfortunately, it broke my heart, man. We couldn't convert the World Series and get a championship, but it was amazing to even get there.
You mentioned BJ Upton. Was there players in the team you were specifically close to, you keep in touch to this day?
Oh, yeah. Barlett, I talk to BJ once in a while. Johnny Gomes, grand ball for. Jorge Cantu, actually, he was not on the 2008 team, but he's one of my really good friends. He was on the 2007 team.
Nice.
So, Cliff Floyd.
Yes.
Awesome. Cliff was amazing. He was huge for us as well. And we'll get into that.
All right. 08 Rays, again, some of those names you mentioned, almost no prior playoff experience. So was there any veteran player that helped you guys for the playoffs specifically? Was there someone like Cliff who could help with, trying to say, hey, this is a different animal now being in the playoffs?
Cliff was towards the end of his career right there, and he came as a role player in a sense, like he was going to pinch hit, he was going to DH, he was going to find places. Joe Madden did a great job of doing that, kind of deploying him exactly where we needed him. And just having him be so steady. I mean, he had prior postseason experience. He's a champion already, and he just stayed cool, calm, and collected the whole entire way, while at the same time having a lot of fun, because being around Cliff, you know how much fun he can be. He kept us extremely loose, and seemed like the pressure didn't get to him.
Yeah.
I'm like, Cliff, what is that? You have ice on your veins or something? He was really, really a factor for us, and a reason why we were able to get that far.
It's interesting. Every year you always hear this conversation of rust versus rest. Like, would you rather be the team, who has the bye, or the team that stays and keeps playing? Do you ever have a thought on that, rust versus rest? Which one did you prefer as a player?
Yes. This is very important because it could go either way. And from personal experience, I can tell you, for example, in that World Series, we came out and we were absent. I mean, I remember staying on the line, and I'm looking around at the team, and it seemed like we were just flat.
Yeah.
Before we went to the World Series. Why? Because of the prior series against the Red Sox. It was so emotionally exhausting that it almost seemed like that was a World Series.
Yeah.
Right? We won 7 games. They started to come back. If you remember, we were up 3-1. We were in Fenway, and we were winning 7-0. So we're like, hey, we're good.
Yeah.
We're going to win. 7th inning comes around, and these guys come back. And remember, these are the comeback Red Sox. Remember what they did to the Yankees just a few years before that. And the newspapers, the comeback Red Sox, they're coming back. I remember getting to the clubhouse in Tampa.
Yeah.
And all those newspapers were on the table. And I'm like, wait a second. We're in Tampa Bay. Why are these newspapers with this type of headlines on our table?
Yeah.
And I grabbed all those newspapers and threw them in the garbage.
Good for you.
I'm like,
I don't need this motivation.
I don't need to hear this.
Get out of here. Yeah.
I told Joe Madden when we lost that game at Fenway.
Yeah.
That was game 5.
Game 5.
We lost at Fenway. After
You're up
that,
7-0.
We're up 7-0. We lost, And I told Joe, I'm like, Joe, we need to talk, man. You need to call a meeting. This is on the plane. And Joe goes, no, Carlos, I'm not big on meetings. I'm like, Joe, the team, it's like a cemetery back there on the plane.
Yeah.
This is not normal. You have to call a meeting tomorrow. We have to just shake it up, man. Just break it up. He opted not to do that. We lost. So game 7, I'm like, I'm calling a meeting.
So you called the meeting?
I called the meeting. And I think that's what Joe wanted. I think
Sure.
Joe
Let
did
the
not.
players do it.
Let the players do it.
Yeah.
I called the meeting. We ended up winning game 7. Was it because of the meeting? I don't know, but I don't want to find out. I didn't want to find out otherwise.
Yeah.
Call the meeting. If you have that feeling, call the meeting. You have enough weight around here that you can call the meeting. We call the meeting and kind of like clear it up. So, guys, let's go. One more game. That's it.
Okay, I want to know more now. How do you call the meeting? Like, do you just tell Joe, hey, we're doing a meeting? Do you just tell the guys, hey, 3 o'clock, get in here?
Pretty much.
I got something to say.
As soon as I walked in there, I told the clubhouse managers, like, look, I want to close doors. We're gonna don't let any media in yet. Let's make sure we get together and talk about this.
That's smart.
And kind of clear. You know what? Address the elephant in the room instead of ignoring it. It's like, no, like we dropped that game and it was a horrible loss, and it wasn't. Hey man, it'll be all right. I hate doing that.
Yeah.
I hate doing that. You have to address the situation and come to terms with it. Then you can move on instead of kind of like sweep it under the rug. Still under the rug.
Yeah. It's like a win-win for the Gipper speech. You all just get it done there. Because once you clear the air, things get better.
Yeah.
You had, as I said, not much playoff experience there. Does that help you? Does it hurt you? Does it matter, playoff experience?
I think playoff experience could help, but I thought for us, being kind of, hey, the Rays who've never won.
Yeah.
They've never had a winning season. It was true. That was the 10th year anniversary, I believe. And we get to the postseason, and they're like, well, this is the first time they actually have a winning record.
Right.
We're like, man, we're playing with house money.
Yeah.
And that makes a team very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
We had the talent, but we were like, we just don't care.
Yeah.
Like right now, you got everything to lose. We got everything to gain. So that type of mentality is, I don't even know if you can even replicate it, right? So even if you are a rookie, you've never been in the postseason, that works to your advantage now. You're just kind of enjoying the moment. You take it all in. You're so grateful to be there. And then let's say later on you want to relive or bring back that type of feeling, you can't replicate it.
Yeah.
That only happens once. So now it better be the advantage. Oh, I'm experienced.
Yes.
It better be that.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to have the other one.
It all depends on one's perspective.
Yeah.
All the stories about Joe Madden are funny because it's like he clearly has a great sense of humor, has a good feel for his team, laid back. What was your experience like with Joe?
Yeah, I love Joe. I mean, he used to, all the managers would be like, I need everybody here at 1 p.m., before the game was at 7. Everybody here at 1 p.m., And if you came in at 2, you were late, right? Stretch is not until 4. So guys are playing cards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Joe was the opposite. He would say, I don't want anyone here before 3:30. And everybody's like, what? It's like, be with your families, have some lunch, go to the beach, and then let's go, come here and let's get to business.
Yeah.
And that type of mentality was kind of unprecedented. We never heard that in the game of baseball.
Yeah.
It was all about being strict. He was more like, hey, guys, we need to relax so that when you come here, you give me 100%. I don't want people being exhausted, mentally tired, or spent. I want you fresh. So I want you to spend as much time with your families as possible. Come here to play baseball. I'm like,
what if you got in a fight with your wife? Just want to get to the park as soon as possible.
yeah, you're like, let me in. And
Joe's like, on the couch, Joe. It wasn't a good night.
Go back. Go back and fix it, okay?
Yeah.
Joe was like that. And then he was not afraid of doing crazy stuff on the field that no one has ever done before.
You guys were ahead of the curve, yeah.
It was unbelievable. And I really admired that.
Yeah.
And he was so philosophical.
Yeah, also a well-read guy.
Well-read, and you could have these philosophical discussions with him, which I really appreciated. Loved wine.
Loves his wine.
Still loves wine.
Yeah.
So he's a connoisseur. Yeah. Just one of the coolest guys I've ever met in my life.
I remember before I called in a game, it was when he was with the Cubs, and he had a great quote to me and Tim Kirkchin. He said, because I talked about that same idea, the fact he likes to not show up late, but as late as possible. And he goes, you know what, guys, I'm going to show up at 1 o'clock and stare up a lineup card in my underwear for 7 hours just to show how smart I am. Such a great
That's
line.
the way he was.
Right.
And then he's like riding to the park on a bike, and I'm like, what are you doing? Hey man, I'm getting my exercise in. I'm like, all right,
Right.
He was so a lot of firsts for a manager. Joe Madden was the one who really just broke the mold.
Yeah, and I think you and I can appreciate that because you want somebody who's unconventional, free thinker, someone different. Of course, a baseball guy. He was with the Angels forever. He loves baseball.
Intelligent, yes.
But think of ways differently is always fun. All right, let's talk specifically to your career. Toughest pitcher you ever faced?
You know, I'm going to preface this.
Yeah.
I'm going to go around the question.
Sure.
I mean, I was in the Hall of Fame
I
ballot.
think of some tough lefty of that era.
Well, yeah, you could probably guess, but I'm going to tell you
Sure.
because this is hilarious.
I guess Andy Pettit, Randy Johnson, maybe Roger Clemens.
All right. Well, Cesar Sabathia was the
Okay.
toughest pitcher
Makes sense.
I've ever faced. And I joke, but it's actually true. Like, I was in the Hall of Fame ballot.
Yeah.
That was a huge accomplishment for me.
Totally.
Like, I was so proud of that. Like, I got a letter, and I'm looking at the letter, and when I get it, and I'm extremely grateful, I start getting teary-eyed. I'm like, this is crazy. I dreamt about being a big leaguer, and here's a letter from the Hall of Fame that I'm going to be on the ballot.
I believe only 5% of players even get on the ballot because I said that to Shane Victorino, and he was blown away by that.
It's unreal. That's I appreciate that that note. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, I wonder how long I'm going to be on this ballot. It's probably going to be on and out because of Cesar Sabathia. Because, I mean, if Cesar Sabathia did not play baseball, I probably would have had a lot more home runs, a lot less strikeouts.
Yeah.
My own base percentage would have been a lot higher, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the math. And then I flip that, and I'm like, there's an argument, or, you know, we could say that Cesar Sabathia is a Hall of Famer. Like, I'm one of those guys, and I'm looking at him like, that's pretty close.
Yeah.
All right? And I'm thinking, you know what? I might be the guy who puts Cesar Sabathia on the Hall of Fame. Because his numbers, because of me, were they're so much better that if you take me out of the game, I'm telling you, a couple points in TRA.
The way amazing the way you reframe that. You
So
go,
now I feel better. You know, I'm like, you know what? If I get CC in, because CC's a lot closer than I was.
correct. Then I'm a part of the Hall of Fame because I helped him get to that level.
Indirectly, yes. You like that?
I like that's excellent thought
CC,
process.
working
All
on
these
it.
guys that helped out. All right, how about this? A pitcher you had success against. Now, it can't just be, all respect, you know, journeyman reliever. Someone, a big name that you're like, honestly, I just saw him better than people realized.
Man, this is nuts because we're talking about two of the best left-handed pitchers that we've seen in a while. We just talked about Cesar Sabathia and how difficult he was for me. But Andy Pettit, Andy's a stud. Like, you know, we know what he did in the game of baseball. John Lester. I mean, these guys were awesome left-handed pitchers in this game, but I hit him well. And, you know,
Why do you think that is?
Well, now that I am, obviously, you know how studious I am and scientific I can get, something to do with cadence, you know, and timing, and how my cadence was it fit their cadence. And it's almost like we were, we danced well together, basically.
Yeah.
We were in rhythm. Their delivery and the way they were so, thorough with their leg kick and so uniform, it just matched well with the way I loaded.
Yeah.
So I found myself in a good position to hit often against them. Cesar Sabathia had a little bit of a hitch, you know, like he wasn't a good dancer. It's like I'm dancing merengue, he's dancing bachata, you know, like what? Cesar, what are you doing, man? You don't hear the music? Like I'm supposed to dance merengue here.
You're only as good as your dance partner. That's true.
Am I right?
Yeah. The late Jose Lima was out there dancing the whole time. He was unbelievable.
A stud.
That's pretty
Swell.
cool. All right, so John Lester and Andy Pettit you had
believe
success
that?
against. That's pretty cool.
Left-handed pitchers, really good left-handed pitchers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know your career splits offhand, but I'm assuming you did much better against righties, as most would. But maybe you weren't a big splits guy. Maybe you saw guys well enough.
Yeah, well, those two lefties right there, them being the best against everybody else. But against me, I put together some great at-bats against them.
It's a good point, though. Their motion worked with your load, so you're dancing.
It did. We danced well together.
That's great. All right, favorite player growing up?
You know, George Bell was my favorite player at the beginning.
87 Jays, MVP. Unbelievable.
I'm sitting over there in Dominican Republic watching Telecable Nacional. Canal 10. You know, and I got the WGN games for the Cubs, and I see George Bell hit a home run.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to do that. The whole place went nuts. Wrigley went crazy.
Ton of fun to watch, too.
Oh, my goodness. And remember what he did the years prior to that. I mean, he was an MVP with the Jays. He was just outstanding in 87.
Yeah.
So he was my favorite player when I was a kid. But then you said growing up.
Yeah.
It was Ken Griffey Jr. And,
left.
I mean, left-handed, beautiful swing. You're absolutely just flawless move.
Right.
What's funny is.
Did you wear your hat backwards like Griffey, too?
I didn't.
No, okay. You didn't go to that level.
No, I don't. Yeah, I kind of like I drew the line. I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. Like, you got to earn that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Can't do that. But I try to imitate everything he did. Like, even, his move, his stance, standing, everything.
Yeah.
And not too long ago, I go over to the Hall of Fame to do a feature. Like we were doing this campaign and just showing the Hall of Fame, and it was awesome. It was a success and all that. But while I was there, they were so kind to give me like, hey, Carlos, hey, check this out. They wanted to just to show me around and give me something concerning me that's in the Hall of Fame, and that's we have our scout cards there. Mm-hmm. They're able to find scouts that filled cards when you were an amateur, and
wow.
Yeah, they like, hey, Carlos, speed above average,
right, 20 through 80, the whole
everything.
Scouting grade,
everything, grades, all that stuff.
Yeah, and
then in the bottom says player that you compare him to or that he reminds you of. And I'm looking at this card, and it says Ken Griffey Jr.
Oh my God!
So I'm like,
that's better than the Hall of Fame ballot.
However, but I know this though, like. I was flat out imitating him. Like maybe I reminded him on the stands. I had good numbers as amateur. Like college, and all that stuff, Cape Cod League. But it was so intentional that I'm like, I got it right. You know what I mean? Like, because I tried to do everything like Ken Griffey Jr. as far as the swing was concerned.
I know what you mean. It'd be like an actor imitating De Niro in a movie. So you go, he's like the next De Niro.
Like,
he isn't, but he's imitating his exact.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like my numbers, Ken Griffey Jr.'s numbers? No, but the stance and the swing, pretty close.
That's awesome. All right, last one for you. Current player that reminds you of yourself right now. Now, I think of you, ton of power, ton of walks, ton of strikeouts. Who's a guy in today's game? I mean, you were a true outcome player. Like, if you played in today's game, you'd be a lot richer and a lot more highly regarded. I think you had an excellent career, but if you're in today's game, I think you'd be viewed a different way. But who's the guy you think of?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I always have to think Kyle Schwarber is one of those guys that I watch, and I'm like, man, I know what he's feeling. Like even when he goes into slumps, I'm like, man, I think I know.
Yeah, you were
how
streaky
he feels,
as well.
And then he gets hot, forget it.
Yeah.
It's over because if I got hot, it's like
forget it.
I'm gonna crush you for a month, and then when it got cold, it was like. Have I ever
Antarctica.
done this before? I'm in the North Pole. Like, what's wrong? Like, my lucky socks? I don't know what's going on. And you couldn't really find what was wrong, right? So Kyle Schwarber reminds me of myself. And I really like Kyle. Like, I think he's a superb player. Yeah. And now we truly understand the value of getting on base, of being able to change the game with one swing, and being disciplined at the plate. It's really that Moneyball story.
Yeah.
I get traded from the Oakland A's, and yet I became the player that they were looking for later on.
Yeah.
Because I was, a true just power hitter, get on base guy.
Yeah.
That's what I became in my career, and now we understand the value of that.
Yeah, you were very much ahead of the curve. You're like an originator, and now you're right. Today's game, they respect and appreciate what you do.
Now they really care about that. As a matter of fact, it's something that you can even, in the negotiations, you can say, no, look what I do. I get on base, I hit power.
Yeah.
Okay, we want you on
our
team.
You can quantify that. You can say, I'm a Carlos Peña guy. Look at my numbers.
Before it's like, hey, what's your batting average?
Right.
Now they're like, who cares about batting average?
220, who cares?
I'm like, where were you guys when I played?
Yeah.
Like, why am I too far? I'm ahead of the curve, like you said.
It's amazing looking back at your career and how it is now. But this was great stories, man. Thank you, Los.
Yeah, pleasure, man.
MLB Network Podcast with Carlos Peña, Madden, and Virk. Thanks for listening.